Check. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Aman. Thanks a lot to UCIM. Does the PPT work? Okay. Good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing? Yeah? So this is the first time I saw rains in Singapore. I don't know how frequent or often it rains in Singapore. Very nice, beautiful. Today, there is a very specific topic that I want to essentially share my thoughts on. How do we protect very, very sensitive private data? It could be fundamental ID information, where you're born, what you are. And a lot of this information is needed, used by governments, used by banks, very, very centralized, and in some cases, corrupt institutions. And the data is being misused. I mean, all of you, how many of you have heard about Equifax? Yeah, and their data was breached, and more than half of US citizen data, is out there in the open. And a lot of the data is actually used by credit card companies to make sure that the credit history of a person is genuine, it's valid, whether to open the application or not. But now it's in the hands of the hackers, right? So as long as the data is centralized, it's really available for hackers, not just for a centralized institution. Okay, let's try again. Next slide. So before we kind of get into the details, I want to give you a context, give you kind of, get a more comprehensive view. And the best way to get a comprehensive view is really to start from the beginning. But obviously, we can't start from the Big Bang. But think about human evolution, right? What's the biggest human invention or an accidental thing that happened that changed human life in a significant way? Go back like 1,000 years ago, a few thousand years ago. Fire, yeah, and then wheel, right? Obviously, blockchain is a huge transformative technology, right? So before fire, before wheel, obviously humans were, all these tools that came out, knife, all of these tools that came about, humans were physically always lesser capable than a lot of animals, right? We still are. But because we're more intelligent, because we are more aware, because we have bigger brains, right? We're able to do interesting things. We're able to really dominate the planet, right? But at the same time, how information is stored, how information is protected, how information is transmitted, how information is distributed, that changed significantly after the printing press was invented. I think it's about a few hundred years ago, right? Before how do I go back? Okay. So before the printing press was invented, you couldn't have a contract. Like a person that's selling, let's say, dates, they want to buy rice, they can't really have a long-term contract. All they would have is, somebody has to trust them, and it's all based on external trust. But after the printing press was invented, a lot of things changed, right? You could have a contract, you could have agreement, you could have, for example, currency notes, right? Before printing press was invented, it's not even possible to have a currency note. If a government wants to print something, all they could do was have really a gold or a silver coin, right? So printing press changed many, many, many things, how information is protected or stored or transmitted, right? So similarly, computers changed a lot of things. The overall internet hugely transformed. That was almost 20, 30 years ago, right? And the new technologies like blockchain or robotic process automation or IoT or AI and ML, they're changing big time too, right? So during this process, during the digitization of information, there is actually a regression, meaning we were progressing, and then because computers came in, we kind of went back. The way the information is being protected or shared, if you see carefully, right, the digital data is less secure than paper-based information. And that's the reason why many governments, even here, when you enter the airport, it's completely digitized, right? But you still need to have a paper passport, because that's really the safest way for the government to verify that you're a genuine citizen of a country. So the digital data is not completely reliable until obviously blockchain came about 10 years ago, right? So can we really transform it in a complete way where hacking is almost impossible, hacking of data, stealing of data. And we know it's already happening. Like WikiLeaks is very popular, right? Obviously, WikiLeaks is used for the good of the society, but it shows how easy or how straightforward for a really motivated hacker or a malicious insider to leak the data, to steal the data. So can we kind of reverse the trend with something like a distributed ledger, blockchain type of technology? And again, data immutability. So basically, both data access and data updates, currently they're completely open. A insider, is already happening. I've heard in big centralized governments where their databases, audit trail logs were completely erased. So can you believe that? So what happens is, imagine there is no digital, there's no paper passport. The only information is completely digital. The fact of person XYZ is a citizen of Singapore, citizen of USA, or citizen of India. So if the information is only digital, and if it's tampered, and if there is no trace of what happened, how the data is changed, then you're lost, right? So is there a way to really protect both data updates and data access in a completely decentralized way? The point is, if a human can change it, then some malicious insider would change. So that's the point, really. So governments and enterprises, they're still relying on paper data mostly. So that's the one aspect, the information sharing and protection. The other aspect is about collaboration between people, between governments, between organizations, right? So obviously we are in a democratic, most countries follow the political system of democracy. Some countries still follow socialism, and some are actually succeeding, right? So even the countries that follow democracy, like biggest countries like US, there are a lot of people that are not happy with their president. So can that be completely decentralized again? I mean, if you look at the evolution, we used to have kingdoms, we used to have people electing leaders in a different way, or having birthright. The kings have a birthright, right? So all of that is changed now. There is a very democratic / not completely decentralized, but obviously much better process now. But we know that a lot of government officers, a lot of government departments, they're very slow, they're very corrupt, and that can be changed. So we talked about two things until now. The state of information is what we're going to talk about now. But if you look at what's happening so far, because these are centralized, governments and banks and all the centralized institutions, and because digital information is so easy to steal, this is what we expect, right? The information is being manipulated, the information is being stolen, and it's only going to get worse. And somebody was quoting a number of the black market for digital data. It's very, very high. I don't know if it's in trillions or billions, but very, very high, right? So what is the real solution? So on this, another question that you should answer is, have you ever received an unsolicited email or text or SMS message in the last, let's say, 1 month? I'm sure all of you, right? We still see a lot of that information because the email or your phone number, it's not really protected. Once you give it to your bank, once you give it to your government officer, once you give it to your company that you're working with, the data is most likely stolen, shared with the wrong person, right? So can we really protect the data in a completely decentralized way and give you, the individuals, full control of your own data? Go, hold on. Can we go back? Yeah, just one forward. Yeah, go one forward. Yeah, we don't have too many slides. Yeah. So it's kind of a vicious cycle, right? Because verification of information is so difficult, because verification of information is so time-consuming, there's a lot of manual checks. When you want to apply for your passport renewal, for example, or to get your first passport, it takes several days, right? Because, you can't rely on digital data. It can be tampered. It can be stolen. So there's a lot of manual process that, the centralized institutions have to rely on. And there are multiple departments to coordinate with. So the whole thing becomes, slow and corrupt and, like inefficiencies essentially, right? It's what I call a cycle of inefficiencies. So there are multiple examples. I think Tim Draper was talking about few of them: healthcare or real estate or government operations or environment science, and many, many more really. Just like blockchain being a transformative technology, if the data can be really protected in a unique way, what I call as completely hacker-proof, completely tamper-proof, if it can be done, then the whole thing will change. You can actually achieve high efficiency because you can instantly verify that, yes, this person is actually belonging to this country. Or you can actually verify that this currency note is really, really genuine. Or you can actually verify that this person actually went to this university. Or you can actually verify quickly that this person really owns this particular asset. So a bank can issue the loan on the real estate property that the person is trying to buy or sell, right? All of that can change. And obviously blockchain, we all know, has huge potential. It's completely decentralized, and the trust is established by the protocol. There's no single person, single entity, single organization required to establish the trust. So completely reliable because of that fact. You don't have to rely on a corrupt government officer or a bank officer to prove that you own that balance or you're authorized to live in that property, right? And there are many, many protocols that are coming up, right, to verify that, let's say you're visiting a hotel in a random place and you don't trust the hotel guy. But as per the government regulations, you have to reveal all of your identity. You have to give your passport or you have to show your identity to the random person at the hotel reception just to prove that you're not a criminal. But if you go back to the zero knowledge proof that's very popular in the blockchain and crypto space, you can prove to the hotel person using digital technology that you're a genuine person, you're not a criminal, but you don't give anything. You prove with really sharing zero knowledge. And all of this, again, not really possible if the digital data is tamperable or not immutable or it can be stolen, right? So what does it take to become a real role model? I know there are many, many blockchain fundamentalists that think that the governments can be completely replaced, the banks can be completely replaced. Maybe it may happen. I mean, we may have a revolution just like we had a revolution of kind of dethroning all the kingdoms, changing the whole way how we kind of collaborate and we share with each other. It can be done, but as of now, it's much, much easier and more organic to actually work with the governments, work with the private companies, and that's what Zebi is doing. We build technology. Obviously, our technology is blockchain-based, and we work with governments. We already signed up with 2 state governments, and about 700 hotels use our blockchain technology. And I really believe that that's the best way to really achieve true decentralization. Not really trying to circumvent the governments, because there is a role the governments are playing, and that's really, really important. And it's much easier, it's much more efficient. There's less friction in the transformation that we all want to achieve. And that's really the best path to go forward. I want to talk a little bit more about game theory and how collaboration is really, really useful. How many of you heard about game theory? Right? So prisoner's dilemma is a huge one, right? So when 2 prisoners are caught by a police officer, say both the prisoners do not cheat, they help each other. I mean, they're part of the same gang, right? They don't reveal the information to the police officer, then they'll benefit. Right? They cannot be proven and they have to be released because there is nothing to prove. But the fact is, if one of them cheat, the other person does not cheat, so the person who is cheating, they get the maximum benefit. So when you're trying to cooperate, when you're trying to compete, obviously we're a competitive system. We're all, as individuals, we're trying to compete with each other. We're trying to have a system of rules where we can follow the rules together, right? In a less developed country, the person that's not following the traffic rules, they're actually ahead. The people that are following the traffic rules, they're kind of stuck in the traffic jam. But the people that don't follow the traffic rules, they kind of go ahead, and that's why it kind of, increases the, incentive. It kind of, makes it incentivized to not follow the rules, right? So obviously, blockchain can change the whole game because the protocol is completely transparent and ensures that all the people follow the rules. even though it may not be in the best interest at the moment. Okay, so I want to conclude by talking about Zebi blockchain solution. We have not solved all the problems I talked about. Hacker-proof is something that's very, very difficult to solve. We have a Zebi public blockchain that's currently in the design stage that will take care of hacker-proof to a large extent. We have made many, many discoveries, many, many breakthroughs in terms of making sure that data access itself is completely decentralized. But as of now, we already have immutability. So there is one state government that uses Zebi blockchain to completely tamper-proof their land registry information. So once the information goes into Zebi blockchain, nobody can change it. Nobody can manipulate the data. So that gives many, many use cases, like things like title insurance that doesn't even exist in countries like India. And now they're thinking about giving APIs to banks, giving title insurance to individuals. So there is more reliability, more trust in the asset information. So the property prices and the overall value goes up. And similar things in education records. One of the state governments use our blockchain to protect their education records. And now, obviously, the data is protected, and the APIs are also possible instantly. So if an employer, if another institution across the world, they can verify instantly whether this person actually studied in that university or not. Right? Again, we're able to bring both high speed, high security, and low cost. The typical blockchain way. And we also have about 700 hotels that use Zebi blockchain to protect the KYC ID information. Without the blockchain, what's happening is the Aadhaar or the PAN card or the similar social security number equivalent in India, that's all in the open. It's being misused, and people are applying for loans without the owner of the person really knowing. Right? That's the a version of ID theft that's very, very prevalent in developing countries. And all of that can be stopped. Right? We already have 2 patents filed and making a lot of progress. Right? Thank you, guys. If you have any questions, you can always talk to me.